But football without fans is not. You play a football match without fans, it's not. It can be the greatest game in the world. If there are no people there to watch it, it becomes nothing.
And to Johnson. Johnson. And a ball by Johnson. Larson. Oh, he's in. Henrik Larsson. That is sensational. Nakamura. He has done it. Isn't that just typical?
The game is over. The Rebels have won.
A star is born at Celtic.
Champions. That's who we are.
Hey! Welcome to another episode of the Jungle Gyms. It's Saturday the 17th of December and we've just witnessed Celtic after the World Cup break coming back and beating Aberdeen at Pittodrie. What a terrible game to watch, but we got the 3 points in the end. Captain Fantastic, Callum McGregor coming up with the winner in the 87th minute. Probably when a lot of people thought it just wasn't going to be our day. We huffed and puffed. It looked like we went through the manual of lockpicking the Aberdeen defence. We somehow got there in the end. Paddy, James and McGregor are with us today. To the viewers.
McGregor.
Paddy, McGinty and James. Sorry. McGregor on the mind. But to the viewers, welcome. Hope you enjoyed the day. Hope you are as relieved as what we are. Get the comments coming in. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Paddy, James, McGinty, how you all doing?
Better now than McGregor's here.
If only. Aye, Paddy, you're dressed like a wee, I don't know, like an Eskimo ninja. What's going on right now? Are you cold?
Oh, mate, the heating's broke in my man cave. I'm sitting here with fucking snowballs between my legs. But you know what? Doesn't matter. It was a turgid game. Very, very hard to watch, as you say. But what can you say about Captain Cal, mate? First game back for the return. Pulling all his strings again and then pops up with the most vital of goals at just the right moment. So, absolutely buzzing. Great to be back. Great to have Celtic back. Here we go.
McGinty, I am reluctant to ridicule people, but I remember having a conversation with you in the pre-match review, and you said you wouldn't start Callum McGregor. Care to explain yourself?
The pre-match review? Okay. We're going to go with that one.
Me and James and you spoke about it.
But we were reviewing the pre-match.
Fuck up, mate. Fuck up.
Well, mind, Gavin, we're the posh boys. We need to get our grammar correct, you know. Yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised, and I think it definitely worked. You can see the difference in the midfield with him in there. We had Hattati and O'Reilly. As Paddy says, a bit of a turgid game to watch at times. Stats-wise, and what I saw, I would hazardly argue against it a little bit. But I know where Paddy's come from, because when you don't have the goals, especially early ones, it can be a fucking slog at times. You hit the barn door and nothing's happening until that man, Captain Marvellous, pops up. McGregor, long-range shot. What a fucking goal.
Aye. James, we spoke about it in the preview of today's game. We spoke how Pittodrie has been a happy hunting ground for Celtic. I think since February 2016, we've had 10 wins and 2 draws. It looks good in paper, another win today, but it doesn't always come easy. We've really had to work for it. And even in the grander scale of this season, we've had, 15 games going into today with 14 victories. That looks great in paper, but you can't take it for granted. We really need to work for some of these games to get the 3 points, and today was not an exception. Do you think the boys were rusty overall? What was your thoughts and perseverance that kind of trumps these horrible tactics for some of the opposition players, but we got there in the end? What was your thoughts, mate?
I don't think you can really say rusty, because obviously Aberdeen's had the break as well, but it just kind of felt as if we pretty much picked up where we left off, in the sense of missing loads of chances. It wasn't as if Aberdeen had us under the cosh really at any point today. We had our chances, more so obviously in the second half, with loads of shots. Obviously most of them blocked, but we just need to work on our finishing really. But that's one of the ones today. The 3 points is the main thing. Take the 3 points, get down the road. Can't gamble with that.
Aye. Paddy, we've maintained the 9-point gap. What sort of message does that send out to our rivals?
Well, again, it's another late winner. Basically sends out the message that we're not going to stop, we're not going to give up. We will continue to be the front runners in this league. Whatever happens now is down to us. And today again showed our fortitude. Again, as James and yourself and McGregor have said, very, very hard game. You look at Aberdeen's tactical starting lineup, that kind of thing. It was parking the bus. It was trying to frustrate Celtic, and it did frustrate Celtic. It caused us to pass the ball about, wait for the chances. We put an aimless amount of cross balls into Kyogo, who was he had at the very least 2 men on him at all times. Fortunately, we had that magician, the captain, Mr. Fantastic, Mr. Celtic at this moment, Callum McGregor, to pop up with that piece of magic, a great strike. And I know you were kind of ready to come on, as you said, you were ready to come on and talk about Callum McGregor shooting, how it wasn't the greatest of his aspects of his game. Unfortunately, he shut you right up.
He did, mate. I was watching it, and whenever you say that he's like a kind of an all-round footballer, an all-round midfielder, the one thing that you would say that kind of lacks, probably more prevalent whenever he played under Brendan Rodgers, he got more goals, but now he plays with more of a responsibility, especially since Scott Brown departed Parkhead, and he has to have that discipline. But whenever he occasionally does take a risk and take a shot, normally, in my opinion, it's woeful, but today he came up trumps. What a goal it was. It was, we were, like the actual goal, what was it, the 87th minute, and again, we were toiling from left to right, trying to pull and push the Aberdeen defence. They were very, very organised. That's one thing that we can credit Jim Goodwin with, what he's going to drill his teams like. And Forrest was starting on the left, he managed to kind of cut inside, and he did a wee cute back heel. I didn't really expect much of it, but it gave Callum McGregor that valuable half yard to just rifle it with a left-footed low drive into the bottom corner, and the keeper on this occasion never had a chance. But James, there was a lot of frustration in the first half and the second half as well. What would you put that down to? Would you put it down to the organisation of Jim Goodwin's men?
Aye, it was a kind of the first half. To be fair, I thought we were terrible. I didn't think it was much of a game at all in the first half. The second half is when we got the majority of kind of good chances. Kyogo missed pretty much a sitter. I don't know, mate. I think, we had a few shots for distance that were blocked, so you have to give the benefit of the doubt to Aberdeen, but it's just what we do, innit? We just make these chances and we don't seem to take them in kind of, recent games, but hopefully we can work on our finishing, whether that be maybe, I don't know if we need to get a new striker in or something, but it's getting a bit beyond a joke, the amount of chances that we're missing. Even though we're winning the games, it really should be a lot more comfortable.
Again, do you think that's one of the narratives to take away from today, the continuing theme of not taking chances, or are we going to be a bit too harsh on the boys after that World Cup break?
No, I don't think that's harsh. I think it's quite fair, especially when you look at the chances that we did create. Kyogo's missed 2 gilt-edged chances, especially one, where he's just let the ball get under his feet and it's just hit his shin, sort of thing. That we're just not clinical enough. We needed, is that him on 100 now? Brilliant. 100 assists and 100 goals. Superb. We needed somebody like Giamacca's on instead of Kyogo, and we've said that on this podcast all fucking season. When you're going to come up against teams who, Aberdeen for the best part played 2 backs of 4, 8 men behind the ball, left somebody in midfield and left somebody right up front for a counter-attack. They didn't want to play football. They didn't want to try to win the game. They wanted to try and stifle us and see if they can sneak a point out of it. They were happy with a point. They weren't going to go for the win at all today. And that's annoying, but Kyogo, love the wee man. He's just not that kind of player.
Sorry, mate. There's a stat just came up on the tail of the house. Most goals in all competitions since June 2021 in the major 5 European leagues. Bayern Munich just cut off. Sorry, mate.
Bayern Munich, Man City. I just seen that and all. What the fuck do we know it?
so Bayern Munich. Who was the other one?
Bayern Munich, Man City.
Bayern Munich, Man City, and then Celtic across all the competitions. Celtic have got the highest goal scores
Since
brilliant.
June last year.
Since June 2021.
So a season and a half since Ange's basically been in. And I think that about shows you two things. One, Ange ball is full effect as we know it. The relentless attacking that we're going through. We're not, today's stats I think is 81% possession in our favour over the complete game. 30 odd shots on goal. I don't know how many was on target, Gav. I'm sure you're bringing them up. But today's a day where we only score one goal because we're just not clinical enough. And the strikers that we have, as much as I love Kyogo, starting Kyogo before Giamakis is not really good in these games where they aren't willing to play against us. They're not willing to play football. They just want to stop us playing football. Anti-football is what this is. But it shows that even with that, we're still battering goals in so more often, and we're still playing great football doing it. It's just it's really, really frustrating when you don't get the goals, and it feels like it's going to go the full 90 without getting that opener.
See, just to retort on your comment about anti-football, do you think it is anti-football? Because one of the stats that the commentators pulled up in the game was that obviously after McGregor scored, that Celtic have scored 100 goals at home, and they've also now scored 100 goals away from home since Postecoglou's come in. So obviously other teams can try and play football against us, but we run over the top of them for the majority of the time. And I think other teams are now trying to they're trying to adjust their systems to try and counter Celtic. And obviously one of the ways that they can do that is by closing up shop on Kyogo, putting two guys on him, leaving Celtic to put in crosses because they know fine well that defenders are usually going to mop up everything against Kyogo. He's only 5'7", 5'8", built at the side of a fibre. You know what I mean? So more times than none, defenders are going to win that, and it does frustrate Celtic. But again, it shows your character, it shows your strength, and it shows your depth of squad. That like when Callum McGregor can come back for being out since the Real Madrid game, and he can pop up with that goal, that we've still got that wee bit in us. But I think it's now time that we kind of tweak our system a wee bit, because it is starting to lag on that kind of frustration, and teams are starting to kind of wise up against us. So we now then need to go and look at other ways that we can kind of manipulate the squad, if you want to call it that. And I think one of the ways certainly would be to bring in Giamakis, because if you're going to start packing the defence against one man up top, then you can't do that with a wee small guy. It needs to be the big guy in there, at least kind of try to frustrate their defenders and pull off chances for somebody else that's running in.
Completely agree. Two things. I don't agree with it not being anti-football. It is anti-football. I'll come back onto that in a minute. But completely agree with how we need to deal with it. It needs to be a guy like Giamakis who's going to have strength and a bit of power to cause their backline a bit of havoc. We can't play guys like Maeda at the same time, who, all due respect, works his arse off. And I'm not saying he's shite, but he doesn't offer near enough on the left wing or the right wing for us that guys like Forrest, Abada, Jota and Haksabanovic can. These guys can drag the ball from the outside in. They can drag defenders out of position, and you can do that while you've got a guy like Giamakis. You suddenly create space, a la what James Forrest did, to allow Callum McGregor to get his shot off. We need to be proactive in doing that. We need to recognise that we're going to have to do that. But as far as anti-football is concerned, it 100% is anti-football from Aberdeen for me. Looking at the stats right now, 20%, 19% possession they had in the entire game. Expected goals 0.06. Total shots 2 to R33. Accurate passes, 118 to R754. They never bothered to try and string a couple of passes together. They had no intention of playing football to actually, entertain people. I'll take it from a kind of neutral point, or slightly what I would feel as an Aberdeen fan. You pay money to go see your team. It's an entertainment sport. People are paying you money to entertain them, to put on a show. And if that's what they're coming out with, as a form of entertainment for their supporters, that's anti-football for me. They're not trying to play. They're trying to stop.
I would disagree with that, to be honest, because I think if you're an Aberdeen supporter, if you've went there the day and they nick a point, nothing each, they would be delighted. I would liken it to us. See when we played Real Madrid at Parkhead, we get plaudits for the way we played and things like that. But see if we went there, frustrated them, drew nothing each, I would have been absolutely delighted with that. So I think anti-football has its uses. Personally, I would love see if we were able to do that. See, like maybe going away for him, or even just the bigger teams in Europe. See if we could do that. Just sit 10 men behind the ball and just think, right, we're good for it. We're good for a draw. If we can nick a goal for a set piece, I would absolutely love to be able to do that. Obviously, not all the time, but Aberdeen. Celtic going to Aberdeen, if you're an Aberdeen supporter, they aren't expecting their team to go out and play us off the park. So if they go out, sit in, frustrated and take a point, or even if they were able to sneak a goal, obviously, I think they'd be more than happy with that. So, as I say again, just to go back, it'd be similar to us with Madrid. We get plaudits for getting bet 3-0. If we drew 0-0 and didn't have a shot on target the full game, I would have been absolutely ecstatic with it.
I see where you're going with that, James. Sorry, Gav. I see where James is going with that, and I do agree from a results perspective only. But if you want to develop your game, you need to take your game to these teams.
Football is a results-driven business. Now, I know that. See, anti-football, it's only anti-football when it suits you. If you're as the small fish against a bigger fish, as James alluded to, when we come up against European giants, I know that we don't do it right now with Postecoglou, but we have had success with previous managers. And I know that we don't have sympathy for opposition, but think of people like Sean Maloney when he came in as a manager at Hibs. He never played anti-football. He tried to do the ideological thing, which a lot of people praise. Get praise whenever it goes right, but Sean Maloney was out the door quicker than, I don't know, like half a season. So unless you're wise enough, then you're going to get bit in the arse for not being cute enough. Now, Jim Goodwin is really changed the fortunes of Aberdeen when they were on a hiding to nothing for so long for consecutive managers. If they got the point today, then that anti-football would have been celebrated, and we would have had to have been honest by saying Celtic never took their chances, we never created enough clear chances, and if Aberdeen did get a point today, then on the balance of things, fair play to them. They got their tactics right. It's a results-driven business. Managers have got a short shelf life, and they have got no obligation to please us Celtic fans. They need to get points, and that's how they stay in a job.
Aberdeen don't need to entertain us, absolutely not, but they need to entertain their own fans. And
no, they need to get points.
I can allow, as you're both saying and alluding to, I can allow the odd result, and I'm trying to take this from both perspectives of Celtic fans and what I would assume would be an Aberdeen fan saying as well. If you look at the Barcelona result we got 10 years ago, we still love that result. And we played backs against the walls and we dug that one out. A big punt up the park by Fraser Forster. Tony Watt latches on the back of it. What a goal. We all fucking loved it. We've dined out on that for so long. But what did it really do for us long term? Nothing. But you take Ange this season, and yes, James, as you say, he gets plaudits for going toe-to-toe with Real Madrid, but we get fucked 3-0 in the long term. But there's progression there, and we're all expecting that we're going to progress from that. We're going to learn from that. Aberdeen should be doing the same against us. St. Mirren, all the rest of it, they should be trying to play against us and learn from it, or else we get stuck in this world of Scottish football where the only way you try and get anything off the big two is just to be dicks and be fucking shite at football.
But could the flip side of that not be just when you're saying about the Barcelona result? Could you counter that with saying, look at Brendan Rodgers' results in Europe? Like the main thing that Brendan Rodgers gets slaughtered for at his time at Celtic was he didn't change it up in Europe. He tried to play against Bayern Munich the same way he'd play against St Mirren, he'd play against Motherwell, and that was his downfall. That was what he needed to be a wee bit more pragmatic in Europe.
Possibly, yeah. So
I think it has its uses, but obviously no all the time, obviously, for us.
Paddy, parking up to the side, people were talking about us not taking our chances. And I guess, why don't we look at the lineup? A lot of people were saying that Giakoumakis, for this type of game, he should have started. That happens quite a lot going into the away games. And of course, it was Kyogo who got the nod ahead to Giakoumakis, and you've got Maeda and Jota up front as well. But there have been occasions where we would say Giakoumakis has to start, but within 15 minutes, when we're away from home, Kyogo has already broken the deadlock, and we're thinking, okay, fair enough. Ange obviously knows best. I don't know what the right answer and the wrong answer is, but at the end of it, hindsight is 20/20. So Are we any wiser about when Kyogo should get the nod and when Giakoumakis should get the nod? What's your thoughts?
I really don't know, mate, because Jim Goodwin already came out and says during the week there that he was going to use St Mirren as a blueprint to play against Celtic. Now, obviously, the last time that Celtic played against St Mirren and they beat us was obviously in Paisley. And for most part of the game, St Mirren camped out against Celtic, but they did leave a couple of players kind of hanging up and then and they hit us on the counter. But he's basically come out and says, listen, I'm going to play against you in a way that's going to frustrate you. I'm going to have defenders pressurising Kyogo, which is obviously going to say I'm going to put 1, 2, 3 guys on him. Now, if Postecoglou is not taking that on board and saying, right, we're going to need to kind of be flexible here and potentially maybe have to play somebody up there to try and counter 2 and 3 defenders. That's kind of worrying for me. And that was one of the things that I was ready to come on and say, if we'd have been beat, then this is certainly down to Postecoglou. Because when you play Kyogo up against 2 and 3 defenders, the chances are that he's going to struggle, he's going to toil. And then when you look at the way that we played today, that's what happened for the most part. Celtic play their free-flowing football the way that they can. They get the possession, they dominate possession, they put the passes together, they spread the ball out wide, they do the good stuff. But when push comes to shove, when a team like Aberdeen, and this comes back to the whole anti-football debate, if you want to call it that, I call it tactical football sometimes, that's when we need to be cute. We need to adjust the squad. We can't just continue to put crosses in to nobody or crosses into one wee guy at 5'7" when he's up against 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" defenders. It's just no good. And everybody on the street can see it. The man in the pub can see it. Now, obviously, the day Postecoglou's formation selection is justified because we won the game. But this is starting to become a wee bit of a trend now. And I don't think it's anything to do with the manager, but I think it's down to the way that other teams are now trying to play against Celtic, because they all know how free-flowing Celtic are. They all know where Celtic's strengths are. And they basically, other teams can't come and play against Celtic, because when they try and come and play against Celtic, they start leaving open spaces in the pitch, and Celtic and their packs exploit that. So now they're starting to all be compact, and they're trying to make us struggle and toil. And it's working to an extent, although we're still seeing out the games. This is the difference between Celtic, the now under a Celtic, a Brendan Rodgers team towards the end of his tenure. We didn't take the chances. For me, we just need to start. We need to start fine-tuning things. When other teams start to adjust things to count us, we need to do the same. We can't just play the one system, the one formation all the time. And for me, that kind of the biggest factor in that is up front. I think we need to be starting Giakoumakis more, because Kyogo is getting frustrated. He's not getting the chances. He's not getting the space, the time to kind of draw off defenders. Everything's now becoming a wee bit more kind of swashbuckling. You know what I mean? A lot of your gameplay is coming in as crosses. So, again, if you're going to put a cross in, you need to get somebody on the end. It's as simple as that.
One thing I would say, Paddy, I agree with your comments. And the one thing that I'm afraid of is us getting stale and continuing to... I don't know what the answer is, again, to come back to it. I don't know what the answer is between Giakoumakis and Kyogo. Giakoumakis is eventually going to leave us if things continue like this. But at the same time, has he done enough to justify his inclusion ahead of Kyogo, or is it horses for courses? One thing I will say, I made the point to you guys during the game, is the difference between Maeda, how he's utilised by Japan as exhibited in the World Cup, to how we deploy him. Now, Ange obviously wanted him. I think he actually wanted him. Apparently, rumour was that he wanted him ahead of Kyogo, but it was Kyogo that we got first in terms of the Japanese signings. But Maeda, when we play him, he's obviously on the wings, whether it be the left or the right, and he gets a lot of criticism, and to an extent, quite fairly, I think. But the guy's a centre forward. That's how he played in Japan. That's how he plays for Japan as well as international club. And we don't utilise him there. Hence why we get frustrated at Maeda. He came off at half-time. We brought in Abada, who he has his own critics, but Abada is more of a winger than Maeda. So, McGinty, how long are we going to persist with try to force Maeda into a winger type role where he's just not fulfilling the expectations that we have as fans, or possibly what Postecoglou wants him to do. He's certainly not fulfilling Postecoglou's expectations if he's hooking him at half time, which he has done on more than one occasion now.
Exactly. Far too long is how long we're going to persist with him. And I hate how this is going to come across, because I think Maeda is a quality player, but we 100% utilise him completely wrong. Was he not top goal scorer alongside Kyogo in the J League the season that he left to come over here, playing as a centre forward? We've seen him play for Japan in the last few games in the World Cup. We know he's not playing as a winger. He can drift out there, but he's not a winger the way that we want wingers to play. We completely underutilise him. We don't get the best out of him, yet he seems to always start games, and I don't understand what that is. I don't understand if there's a contract issue there. Is he meant to play as much as possible? Is he meant to get starts? Lord knows. But he is getting hooked at half-time a number of times now. So the manager's clearly able to see that it's not working and want to change it. And when he has changed it, he brought in Abada, who has been a lot more direct and a lot more of an active winger that's able to support the guys in the middle. And we saw the game change in our favour in the second half with that. For me, Maeda, yeah, we have to play him as a centre forward at some point to see what he can actually do. All his best moments at Celtic has actually came when he's been in the middle, for whatever reason or not that he's drifted in there or he's been told go there for like a 10-minute period. All his goals have came from being in the middle. I don't see why we keep persisting on the left, especially when you can play Jota and Haksabanovic on the left and you can play Forrest and Abada on the right. And all four of those offer so much more on the wings than Maeda ever does.
James, frustration again for Maeda. Quite sad whenever you think about his World Cup exploits, but what's your opinion on it?
He was anonymous in the first half. I definitely think he has got his uses, but obviously if you compare it to Japan in the World Cup, it is like chalk and cheese. You can clearly see that he's not a winger, but he's definitely got his uses. But I think games like the day where it's packed defences, he's not getting the space. Similar with Kyogo, I suppose, as well. That's why we all want Giakoumakis to start. They don't have the space to run in behind or basically any space at all to get into. And for me, getting up places like that, you're just wanting a bit more kind of blood and thunder, just a bit of strength up front, and obviously that's something that he severely lacks. But I think he is a decent squad player. He's a good option to have, certainly, even to come off the bench against tired defences, because he doesn't stop. But nah, he wouldn't be starting for me for a while anyway.
Paddy, I know that you've said it as well, playing two up top, and whether that means a 3-5-2 or some other kind of combination to shoehorn in two centre forwards playing together. Is that something that we're ever going to see? I can't tell. I've heard people say that Ange has done it before. I couldn't tell you precisely what team he did it with, whether it was in Australia or Japan. I couldn't tell you with any confidence. So if someone in the comments could tell me when Ange did that, I would really like to hear that. But Paddy, I've heard you say that you would like to see that happen. Is that just wishful thinking, or do you think it's ever going to be a realistic ambition with Postecoglou?
It's certainly wishful thinking on my part, because I think, excuse me, when you play in Scotland in a game, when you play against tight defences, compact defences, then the one guy up front will always struggle, especially when you've not got that midfielder who's falling on and being your kind of second striker at times. But I know Andrew's done it with Celtic, but he's done it once, and that was at St Johnstone away last season. But that was kind of more out of necessity through injury problems, kind of squad personnel, whatever it may be. But he's done it once. I don't know where he's done it before, I couldn't tell you. But I'm just hoping, mate, that there's just something telling me that the signing of Kobayashi, who's a naturally left-footed centre-half, and then you've got the signing of the boy Johnson, who's coming in, who can play in a back three. There's maybe potential there to do that when these guys are available to start. But again, like it's just a pet peeve of mine, because you can see it. You can see it in the game. But guys like Kyogo are struggling. And then even at that, even when you take off Kyogo, if he's not getting any joy out of 2 or 3 defenders, like at times of the day, mate, Aberdeen had fucking eight or 9 guys in the box, right? You can see it. But he then still takes off Kyogo, say, and brings on Giakoumakis and continues on with the one striker. Now, Giakoumakis for me is a better player in that kind of situation where you're up against 6'1", 6'2" defenders, so dominant. He can at least go and have a go at them. He's a bull. He can roll them. He can foul them. He can get stuck in about it. But again, I would still love to have seen Kyogo stay on. I say that in the chat. Just leave Kyogo on. Play the two of them. They've only got one guy up front, for fuck's sake. Sacrifice somebody somewhere. Like, even if you're sacrificing Ralston, who had a shocker the day, by the way, and you bring somebody else on, bring on another centre half, bring on Lawal, put Taylor to the left hand side of the back three, because he can still bomb on. If they've got one guy up front, you can allow 2 at the back to cover that guy and have a sitting midfielder, because we do that anyway. We're full backs bomb forward, but there's just something needs to be tweaked here a wee bit. Something needs to be tweaked, because I say other teams are tweaking against us and they're getting some kind of fortune throughout the games. We're obviously still managing to go and get the 3 points most of the time. So it's clearly still a positive for us, but you can see it in the game that things are starting to change a wee bit. So we just need to be that wee bit cuter. We need to be on our toes. Every single great team throughout history has evolved. You can't just pick one formation, one system, and just roll with that forever. You know what I mean? Even like your Barcelonas, your Real Madrids, all these teams have got to evolve their shape. And at times you've got to do that as other teams evolve their shapes to try and counter you.
Mm-hmm. It has been pointed out to me today that the 16 games so far this season, we have had 9 games away from home. So, McGinty, whatever Ange's doing, it's a winning formula, because we keep picking up the points, and the majority of the games so far have been the majority of the points won this season have been picked up on the road, which kind of bodes well, because normally you would associate the away games as the harder fixtures of the two. The next game that we've got, I think, is Livingston on Wednesday the 21st at Parkhead. So hopefully Martindale will be frustrated by the width of the pitch. He doesn't have the spaghetti hat to frustrate us with the plastic pitch, but hopefully it will be another fruitful game for the Celtic supporters, another 3 points. James, as Paddy was alluding to, do you think there'll be any kind of tactical tweaks between now and the end of the season? We've obviously been on a great winning run so far. Or do you think it's more about changing the personnel when it suits rather than tweaking perhaps the formation?
I suppose you could say it's a slight tweaking tactics, but I'd like to see Haksabanovic playing in behind the striker again. I know we done it, was it for Park or something, and he was excellent. So I don't know if you could say that's a tactical tweak. I suppose he's more forward thinking than having a kind of actual centre mid in there. But I'd like to see that with Jota and Forrest, or Jota and Abada on the wings, and see if that gives us that wee difference. But I'd like to see 2 up front as well, but I think that is a bit of a pipe dream. I don't think it will happen. But see, if we did that, I think Giakoumakis and Maeda, I think they would benefit each other. Same with Kyogo as well, but I think he'd benefit Maeda more, because obviously winning the flick-ons for him into to be able to run in behind. So I'd like us to do it, but I don't think it will.
Hopefully it's not wishful thinking. The one thing I don't like is to find out that you've got a manager who is extremely stubborn. But I think Andrew's shown so far that he's got the winning formula, because we've not had any fuck ups this season apart from the one game to St Mirren. McGinty, on reflection of the actual game itself today, we spoke about Kyogo missing the chance. Was there any other disappointments for you?
No.
Or even people who surprised you? I thought Starfelt, although we never really get put under too much pressure, I thought Starfelt handled himself very well today.
Yeah, it was. I was going to come on to basically there was no real massive disappointments. Not that we've not already touched. Obviously, Maeda getting hooked at halftime yet again. Not utilising him the right way. Kyogo with his little bit of a Sibo moment, with his gilt edge chance that he missed. Those points aside, and the general, 33 shots and only getting 1 goal, that kind of shit aside that we've already discussed, No, I think we played generally quite well, especially second half. We played good football, and I think the focus more should be on where we keep progressing forward and what were the good things today. The good things are that Abada and Ralston linked up quite well on the right hand side. That Starfelt and Carter Vickers is the partnership at the back again. I want to say, is that the first time that's happened in a long time, or did it happen just before the break? But both of them looked quite assured. Starfelt's made a couple of runs back when they've attempted to counter. He's followed his man back to the touchline and managed to usher the ball out. He's got he's got the ability to read the game well, and I think seeing those two back gives us a bit of comfort at the back line, although not awfully challenged as the stats and the game showed that we weren't. I think on the whole, as positive you take from the game today. Need more goals. We need more clinical moments. I think Ange can realise that as he's hooked people at halftime. He's made the key changes, and we've seen better football as those changes have been made. It's just whether or not he can actually start a game that way. Start a game with Giamakis on. Start a game with Abada on the right, Force on the left, or vice versa, whatever it is he needs to do. Jota in there as well. He needs to start games this way.
Paddy, one other feature today, or a lack of, was there was no VAR, no mention of VAR at all. We get quite happy with the referee's performance, and was there any kind of flashpoints that would have merited for?
No, I would never ever give that particular referee any praise whatsoever because he's a cunt. But delighted not to be sitting here kind of fucking discussing VAR for a change. I was actually expecting it. My telly was playing up a wee bit, so the when the goal went in, I was a wee bit behind. So I was more than expecting to see a message coming up saying, fucking here we go, VAR's called it off or something. But magic not to be sitting here talking about it, especially after the kind of the run of debate, hot flashpoints because of VAR during the run up before the World Cup. Then obviously VAR, the World Cup itself, and all. So I definitely it's a great day to be sitting here again. 3 points in the bag, back to being 9 clear at the top. Happy enough. Of course, always happy. Still got some points to debate, but always happy.
And without fast forwarding too far, I know that a lot of people are kind of salivating about where we will be, what league position will be come the 2nd of January. But if you were just to give me a little bit of leeway here, say on Christmas Day, by Christmas Day, we will have played Livingston on Wednesday at home and St Johnstone on Christmas Eve at home. Whereas the ugly mob, they've got Aberdeen at Pittodrie and Ross County and Dingwall. What is your realistic expectations by Christmas Day? Do you think there might be a wee slip up?
Nah, I think, to be honest, I think they'll win both their games. I do think they'll get that new manager bounce. Obviously, just with him coming in, they were shite on Thursday. Obviously, still going to win, but it was far from inspiring. But I do think it'd be hard for them to be any worse, really, wouldn't it? So I do think they'll kick on, probably win both their games, and then it'll obviously all come down to the 2nd of January. Hopefully, as I say, I'd take a draw the new, but obviously, if they're going to play the way they've played on Thursday, then they should be there for the taking, hopefully.
And McGinn, I know that you got a wee bit emotional with the helping hand the ugly mob got for that supposed handball.
Emotional? I wouldn't say emotional, just as a man Daizen put it in the group chat. Where's the consistency? You've got, if you're going to take their penalty claim, the Hibs penalty claim, compared to what we've had given against us, where's the consistency? I'm not saying that any of them are actual penalties, but where's the fucking consistency? You can't have something like VAR in our league now and not use it correctly without being called out. It's cheating.
I don't know what the rules are anymore. I don't think the referees do either.
I really don't. Football was something I used to understand, but when it comes to the handball, I've got no confidence in my own judgment anymore. And whenever you see something given against us, but given for the ugly mob, you don't know where you stand.
Aye, the Bernabeu one will be the one that we forever get back to purely because I get booked for it. I mean that I still to this day I need somebody to explain to me how I can get how you can get a penalty because obviously it's gave you come off his one no matter how much it is the penalty, but I do not understand how you can get booked for it. I need somebody
Exactly,
to explain
James.
that one.
Exactly. How do you get booked for that when you're jumping and your arms going up as you do? And if you take the still image of when the ball hits Ben Buy's elbow at the back, there's a Dundee United player jumping in the exact same manner with his arms up.
And he's not even
So,
looking at the ball.
so VAR tells you, because that has to be checked by VAR to see if it's a penalty. VAR tells you right there and then that it's not an unnatural position.
Mhm.
Unnatural is if you're jumping with your arms by your side. We can't run around with your arms by your side. So it's not unnatural, but I can see why you would possibly give a penalty if you want to debate it.
Just
But
purely
then you
because
have
it's
to
come
give,
off his one.
but then you have to give every handball a penalty.
I think
Booking him is ridiculous.
I think the adjustment to the rules is basically that if you extend your arms into an unnatural position, i.e. away from your side, like as if they're stuck to your hips, then even if it's no intentional, if the ball hits your hand or your elbow or whatever it is, your fucking wrist, whatever, then it's a penalty. It used to be obviously it was intent that was the big key issue there, but now that's gone. So you could literally walk about the box like that, and if a player kicks the ball off of you intentionally or whatever, it's still a penalty. This is the confusion now with the rules. But as you say, 100% correct. There's got to be consistency. So if one player's doing it, and if you're getting a penalty because a player's jumped, and as you know, watching football, playing football, you have to elevate yourself using your arms. You've got to get yourself a jump, which means that your arms have got to commit. You can't jump up like a fucking as if you're Michael Flatley in flat dance, jumping on a trampoline. You know what I mean? You've got to use your arms. But the referees are just they're criminal up here. Absolutely criminal.
Exactly, Paddy. So let's take what you just said there, and that's the only assumption that we've all made up until this week, is that basically if your arm is anywhere other than by your side, it's going to be a penalty. That's what we've been led to believe against Hearts when the player's hand was down by his side, maybe this far out from the side, but still downwards, and it hits his arm. I think it was James Forrest that took the ball, and it hits his arm, and he says no penalty. The only assumption we can make is that because his arms are by his side in the perceived natural position, no penalty. So anything that's out is a penalty. Okay, we'll go with that. So let's take it back to the Rangers Hibs game. Sands has got his arms out so far that he actually slaps the guy on the face. I'll say not intentionally slaps him, but he does catch him on the face. His arm's out, and the ball hits his arm. So where's the consistency? His arm's not by his side, his arm's out, he's made his body bigger. Unintentionally made his body bigger. I don't think it's a penalty, really, but I don't think Bernabeu is a penalty either.
I think one of the hot topics there to be discussing as well is that why wasn't I'm assuming that VAR never called it in the studio or the VAR hotspot, whatever the fuck it is. You know, why are they not shouting through at the referee? By the way, go and even have a look at it.
Exactly. Why is it not being looked at? Why are they not getting called out on it? Why are they not getting questioned on it?
Because we know why.
But as soon as I say that they're all cheating and they're all got a favorite team, I'll get screenshotted and I'll get clipped and I'll be on Twitter and all laughed at on bloody Kerrydale meltdowns and all the rest of it, and I'll be the paranoid one. But we all know what it is. We all know. It's there for everybody to see. It's now documented for everybody to see. Celtic and Rangers and every other club are officiated at different standards.
Won't disagree.
Well, you'll know that that'll be a sign of when we've made it, when we appear on the Kerrydale meltdowns. Just reading Postecoglou's post-match comment. So he was asked if the overriding feeling was delight and relief, and he responded, delight, yeah, not relief. I thought that's as dominant as we've been in a game of football away from home in a difficult place. We got our goal late, but we didn't get frustrated. We made them work hard, and I think they got one shot on goal at the end there. For a performance, I couldn't ask any more of the lads. Even though we didn't win more comfortably, which we should have, you win 1-0 in that manner, it shows just how disciplined the boys have been. It's easy to get frustrated and know that you're dominating and missing chances we usually put away, and maybe change the approach and lose a bit of belief. But that never happened, and that's just not today, but it's been synonymous with us. It's why we get goals late and early, because we never lose belief. I was really pleased with our football and our mentality. I was going to ask you guys, what do you think Postecoglou will do to avoid these situations where it's the last 10 minutes, last 5 minutes, and we're still searching for that goal? But when I look at the comments there, he said that the key thing is that we don't change the approach and that we just keep doing what we're doing. We continue with that belief. I don't know if I'm misreading it, but the message that I'm taking from him is we just continue on doing what we're doing, because it's bringing us the points, and whether we score early or whether we score late, we're still scoring. James, would you have the same meaning? Are you taking the same meaning that I am from that? Yeah.
Aye, that's it, mate. We're getting the chances. We're just not putting them away. That obviously can be worked on. The worry would be is if we were. Don't get me wrong, I didn't think we were great today, but even at that, we still created quite a few clear-cut chances. We're just not putting them away. You can work on that. The worry is if you're not making the chances, that's when you start asking a few more questions. But aye, I mean, obviously we'll just be watching it. You can see that we were by far the better team today, and obviously patience prevailed in the end.
And if we would say, hopefully we'll get a more lethal striker. For me, if that happens, then someone has to go down in the pecking order. McGinty, who is it, Giakoumakis or Kyogo, who goes down to make way for someone else? Or does it work like that? Does if we bring in someone, then what's the type of money that we're going to put behind that transfer deal? If we put behind that a few million, then there might be expectations that and promises might be made, and the conversation he has with Michael Nicholson and Postecoglou that he's going to get chances. I don't know how it works. Do we bring in someone to be the third striker, or do we bring in someone to say you're going to get your chances? What's your thoughts on that?
I think there is going to be a third one coming in. We've been linked with 3 different ones just over the World Cup period there. The Korean boy, the Iranian boy, and I can't remember who the third one was. There was somebody else. I think it's obvious we're going to go for another striker. I don't think it means that Kyogo or Giakoumakis are on the way out or getting ushered out of the pecking order. It does make the attacking options quite full, and I'm going to hark back to my belief that Maeda's the one who probably can make way. Whether or not that's what Ange decides, who knows. But for me, we need an actual third striker. I think if we do bring one, we need to spend a couple of million, maybe that kind of 2 to 5 million, somewhere in that range, and get somebody who's going to come in, hit the ground running, because we don't really need another project. We don't really need another, unless we are actively looking to move Giakoumakis on with a project coming through and doing project stuff. I don't think that's the way Ange is working this. I think Ange is legitimately working this as I need a third striker. I need him ready. I'm not looking for projects. So there's one in the line. I don't think it sees one go out. Not one of the main 2.
Paddy, recruitment. Some people think that there's still a void that Tom Roderick had left as a kind of creative number 10. But of course, I've heard you talk about it. We need a third striker. And if we do go for a third striker, do you think it'll be another guy in the kind of Postecoglou mould? Or do you think it'll be more of a battering ram? I don't know.
I've got absolutely no idea, mate, because we've got that guy there. As far as I'm concerned, we've got Giakoumakis, who can be that kind of centre forward player, but he's not been played. He's not been played as a centre forward, and any time he's coming on, he's been asked to play in the Kyogo role, as kind of moving into channels, pressurising people. For me, I don't want to be too negative towards Ange, but I think Ange is stifling Giakoumakis' game when he's asking him to play in that kind of fashion. But as shown time after time, at times Giakoumakis has come on and he's played. Like crosses have come in and Giakoumakis has been there. He's been the centre forward. He's come on and he's ruffled the feathers with defenders when it's had to be done. You know what I mean? But still, he doesn't get that consistent run of games that Kyogo gets. Whatever happens, Kyogo's the golden boy. Kyogo always gets played. So bring in another striker, possibly, but then what's the point? Because he's not going to play the second striker that we've got now to any proper extent. So I really don't know, mate. But obviously, there's going to be recruitment talk if Juranovic goes and kind of things like that. But we'll just need to wait and see. But harking back to what you're saying about Postecoglou and his comments, as I said earlier on, technically he has justified himself because Celtic's won the game in the manner that he set the team out. So again, he's in a position where he's saying, well, we've won the game, so what else do you expect? But for me, mate, as a fan, as a guy who's watched football all my days, I can see a trend here. And it's only because what I can see that the other teams are trying to do against us and how we're starting to kind of slip into a wee bit of anti-momentum of struggling to score goals. We're putting the chances together, we're putting the passes together, we're popping off shots, we're doing this and doing that, but you can see the kind of rot setting in. Maybe that's a bit harsh, rot. That's a bit fucking much like, but we're not taking as much chances as we are in the box. Still scoring goals, still winning games, which is great, but we just need to be on our toes. I just don't want to see us getting into the kind of state where we are controlling games, we are having a million shots like we are today and no winning games. That would be upsetting.
I think you're right in your worry and your concern there, Paddy, but I'm still going to be optimistic and think that's not going to be the case under Ange. You look at what Rodgers did. He was so happy having possession and he bleated on about it. Oh, but we got possession, and you watched how many passes we made and how successful the passes were. But it was Brown passing it back to the goalkeeper at times. We're not doing that now. We are playing in their half. We are actively pushing forward. We see what the issues are. Before, under Rodgers and Lennon, the issue was we weren't getting the ball forward. Now the issue is we are getting it forward, but there's just not a clinical nature with the front man.
That's what I mean.
So long as we keep going forward and keep progressing the team in some capacity and trying to find that ability to make Kyogo more clinical, bring in Giamakis or bring in another striker. So long as we keep playing the attacking football and pushing, I think we have to be optimistic and keep backing Ange. And I know what none of us are saying, we're not backing Ange here. And the 1-0 wins late on, they are justified. We are still getting there, and we are still somewhat being entertained. Against teams that we're playing against when we're under Lennon and Rodgers was fucking woeful at times. We were practically keeping possession for 20 minutes, passing around our backline. We seldom see that under Ange, and I'll take that every day.
Can I just say something which I find rather comical? So, Croatia are playing Morocco right now for the kind of third place in the World Cup, which nobody really gives a shit about. But even despite that, when you would expect Croatia to be playing their second string team, Barisic is still on the bench. My God.
What a game it's been, by the way, so far. It's been chances galore, one each.
Is it one each? One each?
It was one each after 8 minutes.
Aye. What I like about Celtic is that we get goals from a lot of different positions. People like Greg Taylor has started adding goals to his game. So the onus is not always on Kyogo or Giacomakis to be kind of springing that lock. But I think today that we were guilty of being a little bit flat at times. One thing that I was noticing O'Reilly wasn't really doing is once you pass it to a player, you make that forward run to create space and drag a defender with you. I felt that O'Reilly, just one player, I'm sure other people would have been guilty of it as well. Certainly Hatate was a little bit off the boil, but O'Reilly wasn't really making those runs that busting a gut to get there, and that's what you need to do in order to kind of to show your talent, the superiority of your talent over their position. You still need to work as hard as what they are. I felt that we could have been doing that. That was one of the kind of the symptoms of us being a little bit flat today. But of course, it's a victory, 3 points. We move on to the next game, and that is Martindale from Livingston coming to Parkhead Wednesday. I'll try and get to it if I can. I'll be fucking Baltic. And by the way, we actually thought today the source of our frustration today would have been the weather calling the game off, but the pitch was absolutely fine. There was no snow within sight. It was just Jim Goodwin's organisation which really kind of frustrated us. But do you think it'll be a much easier game on Wednesday, Paddy, because of the wider pitch? Martindale won't really have that.
I think Livingston will come to Celtic Park, and I think they'll set up the same way that you would imagine that they would, compact in the back. But Celtic will be back at Parkhead, the big pitch, wider spaces. Guys like Maeda might get the chance, and it will suit their game better. It will suit Abada better. Hopefully suit Kyogo better because he'll probably start, as we know. But it's a return back to winning ways, mate. We've had a scheduled break with the World Cup, which has been shit. Celtic's had the chance to go to Portugal, recuperate, come back today. We've won. It's a very, very hard game. A great 3 points on paper. And hopefully we continue that again on Wednesday. Continue the momentum. And possibly we could be looking at extending the lead even further if Aberdeen managed to get something on Tuesday night, because obviously the Governites travel up to there on Tuesday. So I'm sure we'll all be supporting Aberdeen that night.
And a message for Charles Sweeney. Good to see Shetland has been plugged back in, and we're certainly enjoying McGinty's return to the podcast. So more of that. Is everything back to normal now? Have you been bailed out?
I don't think it's fully back to normal. I think there's still some issues that are going to lead into next week regarding the power issues that happened. But as far as I'm concerned, in my household, we weren't affected. Just shite weather. But funny enough, I forgot to plug in my laptop and it almost ran out of battery. So that's what I just went to do, was plug myself back in. So yeah.
Paddy, we messaged there. Somebody asking if we're going to be on Axom tomorrow.
Aye, Alan Woods. Yes, mate. Tomorrow morning, as you can see by the banner there, 10 o'clock, it's going to be Axom's big weekend. They did it last year. So basically what it is, it's I'm sure they've started it today actually. It's a whole weekend, 24 hours of all the pods all getting together, doing their thing. It'll be live on the Celtic State of Mind channel. So we're invited this year, so we'll be on tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So anybody can tune in, please do. Again, it's raising charity, raising funds for St Mary's Chapel in Calton. If you don't know, the birthplace of Celtic, that's where Celtic was created. That's when I was created as well, being a local laddie. So
in the chapel.
Behind it. No, I don't know where exactly, but no, that's where I was born and bred. So great to be involved in that. Something quite close to my heart, local parish. So if you can, tune in.
Mm-hmm. And fuck knows what we're going to be talking about tomorrow at 10 o'clock. But I hope to see all of us there, and we'll all have our coffee and that needed caffeine boost. So set your alarm, James. I'm sure that you'll be needing that.
Yep, absolutely. So ready, set.
Conceived on the altar. Hope not. A wee controversial one here. Before we finish up, Stephen, he was saying that Kyogo, what is it? Yeah, Kyogo's never a striker. Do you think Kyogo will rediscover last season's form, or begin to think this season he'll kind of flatter to deceive? I was hoping that with the disappointment of missing out for the World Cup, we would have spurred them on, because these Japanese guys, mentality-wise, they're quite resilient. What do you think?
I mean, I think we're doing this thing that all Celtic fans tend to do at some point, where we expect too much, or we base ourselves off of last season's and think that we're going to get the exact same, if not more, from the following season. We did it with Scott Sinclair at times. What a opening season he had for Celtic. What did he score? 7 games in a row or something stupid like that when he first started. And yet then he never quite was as explosive in his second season. And people started saying he's shite. He can't cut it. He's shite. Yet he still scored and he still assisted like fuck. Kyle was doing the same. He's 10 goals scored. He's our top goal scorer in the league. He's still bringing in the goals. He's not as good. I'll 100% admit he's not as good as he was last season. He's missing a bit of a clinical edge, as we just discussed. But he's still bringing the goals. He's still doing the job for us. We just need to see a bit more. And we can't judge him on last season, because he did come in absolutely flying. But then he also took that injury, which allowed Giamakis to come in, who came in flying as well. So I think somebody mentioned in the comments earlier something about, was it Cole actually top goal scorer in the league or whatever nonsense it is? and saying that we need a striker who can do similar. Well, we have Kyle scoring goals, Giamakis is scoring goals, but the funny thing is, we're also getting goals from Haksabanovic, Forrest, Jota, O'Reilly. We don't need one player to score goals. We've got about 5 or 6 who are regularly contributing goals to our team. We don't need one. We've got a team worth of it.
Yeah. The one thing I will agree with Stephen about is the question of Kyogo, his effectiveness, and even Giacomakis to an extent. Those questions will continue to be raised until we see a bit of a change. But at the moment, I think it's fair to say that he missed a great chance today, and I think he needs to be putting chances like that away to stop these questions from being raised. And it's not us who's going to be thinking about it. Postecoglou will be thinking about it as well. Any manager worth the salt will always be looking to improve his team. And I don't think the sentimentality really comes into his thinking as well. Kyogo's pish is not a goal scorer. Right? Fair enough, man. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. But in terms of getting Larson and Sutton back, who knows? Who knows? Maybe one of these days we'll get the quality of that back.
Jordan Larson and John Sutton.
Oh.
Anyway, guys, right, will we wrap it up for this evening then?
Aye. We'll wrap it up on Kyle being an actual striker and being our top league goal scorer. Sorry, Stephen.
Aye. Stephen, mate, keep coming in with the comments though. You don't want a fucking echo chamber on a podcast where everybody is singing for the same hymn sheet. So whether it's controversial or not, don't be feared to put in these opinions. Aye, to the viewers, thanks very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the game as much as we did, even though it was pretty pish up until the 87th minute. But aye, if you haven't done so already, please hit the like button. And remember, we'll be on Axom tomorrow, as Paddy said, as we had the banner up. So Axom, 10 o'clock tomorrow for the charity weekender. And we'll see you tomorrow then. But enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Hey, lads.